So what were some of the challenges that you faced trying to be an ambassador for Christ where you lived?
Like growing up, I feel like I kept sort of church and home a bit separate because church wasn't something my parents really wanted to talk about. Going to church and spending time reading the Bible and praying and things like that are not the same things that they valued, and so it kind of feels countercultural in your own home to be doing those things. So, you know, I remember that I would just read my Bible in my room and I wouldn't read it anywhere else because I felt like that was almost too intrusive for them. But in fact, as I think back on that now, I think it actually would have been a stronger witness to have been more public about my faith at home.
So what are some highlights from your time trying to be an ambassador for Christ in your home?
Weirdly enough, COVID has been a bit of a highlight, or this sort of time of COVID. So with church being online, church was happening under my parents' roof, which was, I think, a bit of a weird thing for them, but I think it made it a lot easier to talk about church with them. Also, you know, when everything was cancelled, church was still going in some form or another. Yeah, I think that was a really helpful sort of time to be sharing, you know, the encouragement that we still have, even though it felt like the world was going crazy.
What advice would you give to people who perhaps live with non-Christian family and they're trying to be an ambassador for Christ where they live?
Surround yourself with strong Christian friends. I think, it's really important to be, it can be discouraging to be at home when the people you live with don't believe in Jesus. And I think it is really encouraging to message a friend when things are hard, or to, you know, share real wins with them when you've had, you know, really good conversations and things like that. And I think, really having support from your church family and Christian friends is huge, because church really feels like family, and that's really, really encouraging.
Just thinking about that, I remember that there's a lady at our old church who has actually managed to make a connection with your mum because she knows both you and your brother through the church. And so I guess one of the great things about Christian community is that we're not alone, and so when adults get to know youth kids, they're able to then connect with their parents who may not be Christian, and so there's actually great strength in the body of Christ that we can help each other to be ambassadors for Christ where we live.
So you grew up in a Christian family, but your brother sort of took a somewhat different path, I guess. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
sure. So mum and dad are Christians and they're still believing, and me and my brother also grew up in church, but when he was about 21 and I was about 18, he said that he wasn't a Christian anymore. So that was kind of difficult to see my brother walk away from the faith, and then I guess my home kind of changed into a place where I was now an ambassador for Christ with my brother. That was difficult because he had an experience of Christianity, but I don't think he had a very good understanding of what Christianity is and what it means.
And so, kind of following him saying, I'm not a Christian anymore, I guess, what did sort of conversations look like? Or how did you try and witness to him still, knowing that he'd heard the gospel, but still rejected it?
I think I at first just tried to understand his decision and why he made that decision, and so I just asked him questions about that, and then over time we've had more and more discussions as different things have been brought up.
And so now you obviously don't live at home anymore, so what does being an ambassador for Christ look like now as you have more chats with him?
So I think it it just kind of means sharing what's going on in life at the moment. What's been happening, how God has been working in my life. I think one of the biggest things is prayer, because I do feel as if my brother's grown up in church, he's heard the gospel multiple times, and his heart is just hard to the gospel, and so I think that I just need to keep on bringing him to God in prayer and being faithful in that. Well, thank you for listening to our story, and look forward to seeing you again next week when we meet another person who is trying to be an ambassador for Christ in their neighbourhood.